Hi, and welcome, B-Siders, to another guest interview of my podcast. I'm very grateful you're here again, listening and watching my latest guest share their views and feelings and everything else that comes to mind and heart about music and their view on it and how it has impacted their lives. So I'm not going to talk much more. I'm going to dive straight in today because I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. And today I welcome the wonderful Philippa. Hello. Did I say that right, Philippa? I think I did, unless I go into German a bit.
Yeah. No, you said that perfectly.
Cool. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks. This is marvelous, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I'm always excited to have a guest on, and my brain then goes into like a pea size. So bios and guests, I love them, but I always feel the guests can really best describe who they are, what they do. So if you don't mind just giving us a little bit of a background of who you are and what you do on a daily basis, that will be wonderful before we dive into all things music.
Okay, no problem. That's really funny. You should ask me to tell you and your listeners who am I, because that's kind of been my big quest over the last 5 years. So that's really,
there you go.
Yeah, exactly, meant to be. So I'm Philippa. I live in the UK, in Bristol. I'm a mum to 2 teenage boys. Interesting times. I used to be a lawyer. For 27 years, I was a lawyer. And then in 2017, something quite catastrophic happened to one of my eyes, which is now sort of okay. So but that sort of led to a massive unraveling, Brené Brown style, midlife unraveling. And for the last 5 years, I've been on a real quest to find out who am I. So today, I suppose if I'd given you a bio, it would say I'm a life coach, I'm an author, I'm a podcaster, but really I'm just a human being on a quest to work out what life is all about, I think.
Yeah. Well, don't we all?
Yeah. And the more I do this work, the more I realize that a lot of people are on a very similar quest. So yeah.
Yes, and I know we've had a little bit of a chat beforehand, and we sort of have similar life stories to a certain degree. So we'll probably cover that a little bit today too, because that feeds into the whole music thing as well.
It does. Yeah.
Now, let's start straight off. What is your favorite song that you have at the moment, or a song that you sort of always kind of fall back onto?
Yep.
Whenever things went tough, or when they're not so tough, or you want to celebrate, or when you need encouragement, whatever the emotions are.
Yeah, it's funny because since sort of coming across you and then meeting you and then listening to some of your podcasts, you've really got me thinking about music again, because I think for the last 5 years I found music quite hard to have a relationship with, in a way, and I think that's partly because I didn't have a relationship with myself. So but part of writing my book, I wrote my story because I felt that that's what I needed to do, and I released that last year. And part of doing that, the person I was working with to help me do that asked me to write a playlist. So I did write straight away all the I think there's 14, just looking at it now, there's 14 songs on it, and they came to me really easily. And they're definitely sort of main songs for phases of my life. And I think I struggle to listen back to them because it brings back all the emotion of that time, in a way. But also I think now I am where I am, which is in so much a better place, I sort of listen to them a little bit differently. It's really interesting what it's brought up for me, but music can just really touch me somewhere that that words alone kind of doesn't. It allows you to go somewhere different. I think, well, I know what it does. It takes you out of your head and it puts you in your body much more. The lyrics plus the music And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I don't even necessarily hear the lyrics. I'm in the music and I'm in what it means to me. But your question was, what one song? And the one song that really, out of all my journey, the one song is "This Is Me" by from The Greatest Showman. And when I shared that with you, I hadn't realised then that that was your song for this year, which was quite funny. But yes. I heard that. I went to see The Greatest Showman after a long time after, I think it was probably a year after it came out. So loads of people had seen it and said it was amazing. And, I'm a bit like, oh God, if it's so hyped up, by the time I've got there, it's always, a bit of a disappointment in a way. But we went and I sat there, and when this song came on, I just was in floods of tears. Because it just hit me right in the who am I, and to be able to stand up and say this is me was just a dream, really, or maybe it was something I really wanted but felt I couldn't do. But watching them, and as they all gather behind Keala Settle in the ring, and they're all there, and the power as that song builds, I was mesmerized by it. And that really stuck with me. And I'm not one for going to YouTube and looking things up and watching things over again. I tend to listen rather than watch. But I looked on YouTube, and there is a when they were trying to get the green light for the film to go ahead, I don't know anything about film production, but they did a run through and some of the songs for potential investors, I think, or whatever it was. And there is a clip there of the first time that Keala Settle sang that song. Luckily, she didn't know it was being recorded, I don't think, but they were recording it. And she was told by Hugh Jackman to step out from behind the music stand and just really give it her all. And I every time I watch it, even now, it still fills me with with joy, with watching her courage, because she didn't want to step out from behind that music stand. She wanted to carry on holding on to that music stand. She was quite happy to sing it. She knows she's got a good voice, but she doesn't want to be in the foreground, and she even wasn't set to play that part at that time. I think she was just part of the team to get the green light for the film. But once they'd heard her sing, obviously, it had to be her. But it's just phenomenal, and I think it's the power, it's the emotion, for me, it's definitely the "Can I Dare to Be Seen" message.
Yeah, and I've seen that clip too on YouTube, and you can just see as soon as she steps out from that stand, it's like she really embodies "this is me," and she steps fully into it, and that's just amazing. And I get goosebumps just,
I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah. Same here. I'm like, oh my God, I've got it all over my body because it's so powerful. And I think that's why probably many people resonate with it. Because in today's society, we are told so many times that we're not the right size, the right height, the right hair color. We shouldn't have glasses. Our teeth have to be absolutely white and straight. And it's such rubbish. It drives me nuts. I don't know about you.
Oh, me too. I think the messages that we get from really quite young, that how we have to be to sort of be acceptable and accepted, and what is the the definition of success. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the definition of success is, but there are definitely ideas that we are brought up with, I think, either from our parents because of their conditioning, or society as a whole, and just generally we are bombarded with so many messages that it's really, I admire people who at a young age can just know what's right for them, and just go for it, because I certainly didn't. it's taken me turning 50 to get to that. And I know partly that's age and having had a lot of life experience where I've tried desperately to fit in and felt like I failed, but also felt like I was the only one all that time. It was like my dirty little secret that I didn't fit in, and I kept it quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, now that I talk about it, it's like when you get your I don't know, when you get a red car, all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere. So now that I'm quite happy to talk about the feelings I had when I grew up, I see lots of people talking about it, and I know it's not just me. But at the time, it was a very lonely place to be.
Yeah. I think I can relate a lot to that. Because like for you, when I was growing up, there was this certain judgment put on me from others that I wasn't good enough to go to a certain school, or I wasn't good enough because of what happened with my parents, etc., etc. So that gets ingrained in you, and it's so hard to shake it off. And like you said, I admire anyone that's younger, because we obviously both a bit more mature these days, aren't we?
Yeah.
Especially those like teenagers or in their early 20s who are so, I don't know if the word focused is the right word, but they just know who they are and they're very comfortable with that, and they don't give two hoots about what society thinks. I think that's amazing if you can be like that at that age, because I certainly wasn't that. Like you, I pretended a lot. And then I went home and put, in those days you had CDs, you didn't have Spotify, put my CD on and just had a good cry in a pillow. That's just this whole putting a mask on. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like now we're at a stage where a lot of people don't want to put that mask on anymore.
Oh gosh,
they are coming out
so.
and saying, this is who we are and this is me and it's okay.
I sincerely hope so. I mean, I see more of that now, but I'm not sure whether that's just because I am more aware of it, and maybe I'm mixing slightly different circles these days. I don't know, but I so hope that is true, because there is no greater, I feel there is no greater gift that we can give ourselves. The best gift we can give ourselves is to discover who we really are, what lights us up, what do we want to do, what do we need, and to be able to ask for it and to be really truly comfortable and happy in that. And there is no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. I suppose to varying degrees. I mean, there are, we all have things that perhaps we have to do in our life that maybe we don't really want to, but to give ourselves something that is for us, that is true to us. I think some, especially women, I think find that it's almost expect. I felt I was expected, so I can't believe I'm the only one, to put myself at the bottom of the list and look after everybody else first. And then there's no time or energy ever left for me. And that was the first thing I learned after I had my breakdown, that actually putting everybody else first was just making me really resentful, really angry, and really not a nice person to live with. There was one moment when I lost the sight in my eye, and I was incredibly short-sighted, like -16, if that means anything to anybody. I've actually just had cataract surgery, so now, and they've put different lenses back in, and actually I can see a huge amount better. But when I lost that sight in my eye because of something strange about my weird-shaped eyes, it was very possible it could happen to the other one. And there was a real risk that if it did happen, that I could actually be blind, or largely not be able to see much at all. And that is what made me realize that I'd set my worth on being useful and capable and helping everybody else. So it was like, well, if I can't see, who's going to want me around? What's the point? I mean, it was a dark place that I ended up in, but what was the point of me being around? And as it became clear that maybe the sight would come back, I just realized I needed to do something about it. And, you know, it was at one low point. One day I said to my husband, I'm going to have to go and have some help, go to counselling, find a therapist, something. Otherwise, I'm going to have to leave because I'm kind of going to screw everybody up. And, you know, luckily, I did find a great therapist. And after 3 years, I was in a much better, well, it didn't take 3 years, but gradually during that 3 years, I was in a much better place. And I'm a much different, very different person now, very different mother, very different wife. I'm much happier. So if I'm happier, everybody else is happier as well.
Absolutely. Well, just listening to that part of your life story that you've shared, and, you know, if anyone, I'm just going to throw that in there, if anyone wants to find out the whole life story, you have written a wonderful book that obviously we'll probably go in depth a bit more about, you know, much a broader time span of your life. But I'm just thinking, knowing what you know now and having heard the This Is Me, what do you think younger people, especially sort of in their 20s, how do you think they could possibly use music to stay true to themselves? Can you use... Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm throwing a question.
That's a great question. So
because most young people probably love music in some shape or form, and you know,
absolutely. So I think if you hadn't added using music, so if I could just answer the first bit of the question and then bring music into it.
Sure.
So
please, yeah.
I mean, for me, I realized when I started my podcast, I decided I was going to talk to people I know in their 20s and 30s, because as part of writing, sorry, it's all interconnected, isn't it? As part of writing my book, which is my sort of life story, I did a timeline, and it was really clear to me. I mean, I had to do like 1 page per decade because there was so much kind of going on some of the time. And it made me realize how chaotic my 20s were, and how I suppose I thought leaving home at 18 and going off to university, life would just get a lot better, because it hadn't been great. My mum was an alcoholic. My dad had left. I always felt my position was really precarious at home. And so I thought when I left at 18, I'd be able to go out and live my life and I would be free in a way. But what I found was that I didn't have the skill. I didn't have any confidence in myself. I didn't have the skills to get on with people because I was still really in survival mode. So my 20s were all over the place. I moved to London. I got a job in a big law firm in London. I lived there for 3 years, and then after 3 years, I moved around probably every year and a half. I just couldn't settle anywhere. I moved cities, I moved jobs. And I realized that my 20s had been, I didn't understand why, but I realized how chaotic they were. And then in time, I realized that I was obviously looking for something. I was searching for something, or I was running away. There was a bit of both. When I wasn't feeling happy, I thought, okay, this is not a great place to be. I'll go somewhere else. So I was running away. The thing is, I now know what I was running away from was me. And I kept coming with me. So, you know, until I stopped and took stock of me, it was never really going to get any better. So looking at my 20s, I realized how chaotic they were. And then I also came across a book at roughly the same time about this lady's view. I can't remember for the life of me what her name is now, sorry. But she wrote a book about the decades of like your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. And roughly, you know, what we will go through in those decades. And what she said really resonated with me, that I think there is an awful lot of pressure in your 20s, you've, you know, left home, finished full-time education, you're out in the world. I just think there's so much pressure to know what you want to do and just get on with it. But actually, in reality, it's just the start. It's the start of being out in you know, the great wide world. It's the start of working out who you are and what you want. And actually, this lady's take, which I think is a really great analogy, she says the 20s is all about trying on uniforms. It's about trying this and trying that, and not sticking at something just because you feel you have to if it doesn't feel right. It's learning to listen to yourself, to listen to your intuition, and work out bit by bit what it is that you want. So okay, this job is not great. Okay, what is good about it and what is not so good about it, so that next time you move, you can make a more informed decision about more of what you like and less of what you don't like. And, you know, similar with relationships as well.
So it's, to me, it sounds like it's all about learning to listen to your inner voice and discover what your inner voice actually says to you. And trust that. And that's a process, and you shouldn't be upset or angry with yourself too much, because you're just like shedding skin like a snake who learn, you know, there's always a new one coming out. So yeah, that inner voice essentially is, you know, kind of that your own vibe, your own energy, your own sound. So
and it's, you know, then it's your own compass really to tell you, you know, what is, you know, what is right and for you, and what is not quite so right for you. I wouldn't say shouldn't feel angry and shouldn't feel upset, because, you know, all emotions are telling us something, you know. So actually our emotions are really great indicators and really great lessons for us, if only we can allow ourselves to feel them. I mean, certainly I never allowed myself to feel anything. I kept everything buried. My mask was firmly on my face. Nobody knew anything about how I was feeling until I crawled home and cried silently to myself. So I think music allows us to maybe process some of those emotions in a way that we can't necessarily with other people, if we don't have people around us who we feel we can be truly ourselves with. I definitely got a feeling of almost being understood by certain songs that I go, gosh, yeah, that, you know, that is me. This is me. I remember as a child listening to Against All Odds by Phil Collins over. I mean, this is angst teenager in her bedroom over and over and over again, listening to Against All Odds, and, you know, I knew every single word and every single, like, you know, pause in that. You know, I could sing that with so much feeling at the top of my voice if I, you know, there was nobody else at home. And that really allowed me to feel sad. And I always, when I sang that as a teenager, that was all about, you know, it was all about the boys that I liked and, you know, weren't interested. But I think I shared with you when we spoke before that actually that song, when I listened to it when I was compiling it for my book playlist, I realized that I think all along that song was always about my dad leaving. And it was not about boyfriends, it was about him. It was about my dad not coming back. And, you know, so much as I did a lot of crying and singing along to it, it did allow me to process some emotion.
That's fun. That's funny you say that, because that, to me, and I think I've had similar situations, and I'm sure, you know, if anyone who listens probably now they're thinking about it will come to the same conclusion. Your subconscious attaches a whole different meaning to a song, and if you're not open to receiving that, then, like you said, I love that song too from Phil Collins, and I did have my heartbreaks to that song, but to me, it also, in a way, when he says, just take a look at me now, in a way, I thought that lyric itself was also a little bit like a rebel thing, saying, I will get out of this rut. I will get out of this hole. Take a look at me now, who I am now. No matter, like, so sometimes it's just that one sentence that really sticks with me for some reason. And that was in my 20s.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, you can start to really look at these songs completely from a different angle. And maybe that would be a good idea if you're in your 20s, 30s, or even 40s, 50s, whatever. Look at them differently.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, that's the beauty of music and songs, isn't it? That, so, like, lyrics, we're talking about it here, that, they can mean so many different things. They can mean different things to different people. It doesn't matter what that song means to you. And that if it means something different to me, it just matters what it means to you. And it just matters for me what it means to me. And yes, you would take, there's a bit of a defiance, the rebel, as you say, in that line for you. And in that line for me, it's like, look at me.
Yeah.
So there's a very different sentiment. So I think with music and the way to connect, if you're looking for music to help, is to almost like look at that. What is it? What part of the song is that you're really connecting with, and what is it meaning? What is there a rebel energy there? Is there a real hurt energy? Is there a happy energy? Is there, because that will give you an idea of how you might be feeling.
Yeah.
And if your intuition is sort of drawing you towards a certain song, then what is it that's going on in that song?
Yeah.
Because that's a message really for you to look at it a little bit more.
I just had this, when you were saying that, I just thought about music is almost like a key to unlock certain things that you don't even know about yourself. And I mean, how awesome is that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And whatever it takes, I think that using that key to unlock the inner, the inner sanctum, the inner bit of you, whatever it takes, be it music, be it dance, be it creativity of some other way, be it movement, whatever, breathing, what yoga, whatever it takes to unlock that is really worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the good thing about it. I mean, all of the things that you mentioned, you don't even have to, generally, you don't have to leave your house. You don't have to leave your room. You can do it on your own, where at the beginning it's comfortable while you do that, because it can be uncomfortable when you first start that journey, like we both know.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you might be able, to step out a bit more. So that's the beauty of it. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. That's what I keep saying. Music is free.
Exactly.
Let's use it, people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because there are so many things we can spend our money on, and I definitely got caught in the loop of earning money to then have to spend it because I was so miserable. Whereas actually, if I didn't have the job that was making me miserable in the first place, which I don't have that job now, then it's funny how I just don't need as much money. It's it's really interesting, but I think we can get ourselves caught up in that loop. And I'm not suggesting everyone goes and gives their job up, because of course that's totally impractical. But I think we can get ourselves caught in that loop sometimes, and sometimes that loop is like we discussed, that the expectations.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think each and every one of us has been in a job or a work environment where they've almost hated it, but they just had to stick with it, because that was how life was at that point. There was no way you could just change it. However, if you, like you said earlier on, if you can start identifying what you like and what you dislike, then you can start the process of changing that. And and if there's means out there that you can do it, like music or other forms of sound or energy or whatever it is, then I think go for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I completely get that and understand, and I was there for many years, that you have to stay in the job. But what you can do is, when you're not at work, find things that are going to light you up. So it's not all about that work. I mean, it's really hard, especially if you're doing something that you're in a situation where it's really draining all your energy just to go there. But if you can find something that can help you connect more with the truth of who you are, rather than this persona perhaps that you're having to put on at work, or whatever it is that's going on at work, if you can be you and find the true essence of you in some other way, then that at least goes some way, I think, to counterbalancing what is going on at work. And music is a perfect way of doing that.
Exactly. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you're really passionate about helping other young people in their 20s, especially, remind me if that's correct, to not be so hard on themselves. Is that right? And that's sort of like your passion. You really want to inspire the young sort of 20-odd-year-olds to go out and explore and try on different suits or clothing of life.
Yes.
Have you come across any of your clients or your acquaintances or whatever, where it just sort of naturally came to using maybe music or any sort of form of sound, that could be meditation or anything like that, to help them along the way?
Ooh,
well, maybe it can happen now.
Well, maybe it can happen now. Yeah, maybe. I can't think of anyone specific who has mentioned to me that music is what has really helped them. Mm-hmm. But what I want to inspire anybody to start their journey to finding themselves, and I certainly want people in their 20s to know, don't worry if you've not got it all sorted. Actually, take some time, if you can, to work out what it is you really want. I also want people at the other, older people. I was 47 before I even really understood what personal development was. I certainly wasn't doing any work, and it has completely transformed my life. And I want people to know, also people at that age, to know it's never too late. You're never too old, and it's never too late. So but the main thing I have to work on initially with clients is getting them to slow down, because we all live such fast-paced lives. There isn't any time. There doesn't seem there's any time or any space to connect with themselves. And actually, what can you do that we talk about things that can help them slow down and just sort of be present more. And I'm sure music must come into that, but I would be lying if I told you an exact example that I know about.
It was worth asking.
It was worth asking, and now I'm going to make sure I check it out with my clients more. But music must be part of that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we've covered quite a bit, and everything's my favorite part when I speak to people, but there's always an extra special part of every interview that I love asking, because it can throw people so badly, because I've never thought about it really. But here it is. My question that I ask at the end of every guest interview is, if you would have to choose one song that describes your life and or business at this moment in time, which one would you choose? And please share the reason why as well.
Well, so I've listened to your podcast, and I know you ask people this, so I suppose I could pretend I'm thinking about it, but the answer came really quickly. I mean, the answer is one off my playlist, actually, off my book playlist, and my answer is "Get What You Give" by the New Radicals, which is quite an old song now. It's probably getting on for 20 years old now, and I first came across that song, or if I'd heard it before, I don't remember hearing it. When I first went to the Glastonbury Festival in 2003, and there is a lot. If you're wanting to like make sure you don't miss any bands on a certain stage, there's quite a bit of hanging around in between. And they played this song over and over and over again at the Pyramid stage that year when I went there. And it was so, the weather was brilliant, which, you know, is not always the case at Glastonbury. The weather was amazing. It was the first time I'd ever been. I was completely in awe of this place. It was just heaven. I loved it. And I was there with my new partner thinking, oh, I hope this is, you know, and I have now since been married to him for the last 15 years. So, my vibes that it was right, were right. And it was just such a great song, great place, great experience. But also, my kids laugh because I always say to them now, you get what you get out of life what you put in. When I'm trying to get them to sort of, perhaps put a little bit more effort into something like schoolwork, nudge, nudge, but I do believe that. I don't mean that if you push, you'll get everything, but it's more I think for me, there's a more gentle energy to it, but I suppose it comes back to the law of attraction in a way, you what you give out, you get back, and all those things. And I really believe in that. And I love it. It's an upbeat song. And I think I don't know why, it's a feeling more than something that I can eloquently, as you've guessed, eloquently explain. But when I looked at the lyrics like properly, rather than singing what I think they are, it talks about all the rubbish things that might happen in life, but it's like kind of like, don't worry, you've got the music. Mm-hmm. That's what the lyrics actually say. You've got the music in you, which actually is right on brand for your podcast, weirdly.
Absolutely.
Because I'd already chosen this song before I actually looked at the lyrics in real great detail, because I felt if I was going to talk about this, I'd really want to know that, because for me, it's the feeling about it. It's the upbeat feeling and the playfulness, perhaps, whereas actually underneath it, there's quite a message.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's such a fun, upbeat song. Yeah, when you tune in a bit more, you can see, like you said, there's an underlying inspiring and uplifting message.
Absolutely. It's all about, have your dreams, and don't worry, if your dreams aren't working out, don't worry, hold on tight, something else will come along. And things like that.
So I think it's also, with both of us, what we've done in the past and obviously do now as well, is we try different things and approach things differently. So we give out different energy and a different vibe, so that means we attract something differently. So again, that sentence itself, saying you get what you give, fits perfectly. So hopefully someone might get the idea of, maybe if I try to smile at myself a bit more, I'll start to appreciate myself a bit more, and maybe put that song on and just dance a bit more, so you're raising your energy. So there's so many little things we can do to just with one song.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And energy is not something that I ever talked about until probably the last 3 years or so, I think. And now, like, I talk about it all the time.
I think as soon as you start going on your personal development journey, energy is something that will come into play at some point. You cannot avoid it. So, and that's a whole nother topic we probably could cover in another half an hour, but we won't.
No. It's I completely agree with you. And hopefully somebody might have listened to this today and just sort of been a little bit inspired to do something for themselves. I would hope so.
Then both of our jobs will be absolutely done for today.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing parts of your journey so far with us all, and a little bit about the music that helps you or has helped you along the way. And if anyone
I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you did. I did too. The energy was really good. It was really comfortable and, really uplifting. So that was really good. So thank you as well.
Yeah. And were you going to say, where can people find me?
That was exactly what I was about to say. So if you want to just quickly say it, and then I'll also put it in, obviously, in the episode.
Lovely. Thank you. So yeah, if anybody wants to know anything else about what I do, I have a podcast called Meeting of Minds, and my book is called I See Me. It's available on Amazon. It's available everywhere. It's this kind of story of my life up to about 2 years ago. And you can go to my website, which is safeandsupported.co.uk, and on there you can sign up and you will get my free ebook, which is called I See You. I've literally just finished doing that, and that is hopefully to inspire people to see themselves more and to know that they are enough. That is what it's the sort of little book. It's only small, but it's the sort of little book I would have liked to have seen about, I don't know, 30 years ago. So nice. That's why I decided to write it, and that's available there free. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, all the details will be in the episode description. So if any of that tickled your fancy, then head over to the episode description and it will all be there for you. Right. Well, God, time flies when you're having fun. It's another episode finished. Wow. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening and watching if you're watching it on YouTube. And as I always say, until the next episode, you keep on dancing and keep on rocking. And yeah, until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.